I want to know what this wall is about. We heard so much about it. Please tell me about this wall. I want to experience it. Thanks.
I want to know what's going on with this fucking wall.
You're listening to Getting Fae'd. We,
Meike,
Lukas,
and Lea are reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the very first time. Today we are covering chapters 5 and 6. Get Fae'd with us! Woo! Before we start into the chapters, how was your week?
stressful.
Stressful?
I think my Instagram algorithm picked up on the fact that I'm reading this book.
Oh, wow.
And I get quite some spoilery content
Oh, no.
that I have to skip very quickly.
I think that happened to me too. I'm now trying to skip videos even when they remotely seem to be related to ACOTAR. And I'm like, Faye, no, skip.
That's usually a good choice.
Yes.
I decided to spoil myself, and I went to my mom, visited her, and got my editions of Throne of Glass and took them home with me because I'm now reading them again.
So you can give some insights and comparisons.
Nice.
Very well. So then let's go start talking about these chapters. So chapter 5 is quite short. It's only 5 pages long. And there's not a lot of dialogue again. So Feyre is in the hands of the fairy who is escorting her toward his homeland. And he has a white steed waiting, on which Feyre is then riding while he leads not on foot, but on paw. And she is thinking quite a lot about her future, what kind of life might be awaiting her, but also her possibilities of escaping.
Yeah, this whole chapter is just Feyre's stream of overthinking consciousness.
Yeah, and in the end, when she asks the fairy his name, she gets to experience magic for the very first time.
Ooh. Wow.
And we don't get to experience his name.
No.
Yeah.
So, Rysand not yet confirmed.
But
Yeah.
still possible.
I just called him the main fairy dude or something.
I call
but-
him the blonde guy.
Yeah, same. The blonde fairy main.
Maybe we should give him a name, just for now.
I was thinking about Hannibal. Did you watch the Hannibal series?
A bit.
Because there is this image of this monstrous creature representing Hannibal with these horns. And this fairy
Yeah, I
creature
don't
also
know.
has these horns.
But I mean, it's Mads Mikkelsen, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like we get a description of the blonde dude's jawline, and that kind of fits. So
So
let's call
he's
him Hannibal.
Hannibal. Okay.
I mean,
Nice.
I initially wanted to just call him Rysand, but if that's not Rysand, we will confuse everyone who
Yeah.
knows
Yeah.
Rysand.
That's true. And
Can we just
probably-
name him Honey?
Honey? Yeah, I like that. So
Because
Honey.
it's funny, because it sounds
Okay.
like, honey.
Ah, I get it.
Yeah, so this fairy is Honey and the horse is Nanny.
Only Germans understand that.
Maybe let's start with the horse.
The mare.
The mare, the white mare that is unbound.
With a coat like fresh snow.
So it's white.
Yeah.
But the book can't just say it's white.
No, that would not be artsy.
Maybe it's dirty snow. I wondered if the horse is fairy. Because if the beast is the beast while being fairy, maybe it's just a fairy being a horse.
Maybe. But maybe it's just a fairy horse, so it comes from Prythian, so it's special, but it's, it's still a horse. I don't know, maybe because it's a white horse, but I got some knight in shining armor vibes from this fairy.
Okay.
It's hard for me to pinpoint why I get these vibes, but I was like, okay, why do I feel like he's so honorable? He's just described as this monster.
Well, maybe it's because the horse is not afraid. And, normally horses are very angsty creatures and just run from everything. And then you have a wolf-like creature with horns, and you would expect the horse to just flee and
Yes.
take off, but it doesn't. They're even friends, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, the white knight would symbolize a savior, and we don't know if this fairy is her savior or her downfall. That's what she wonders constantly. So maybe
Yeah,
the
you're
horse is like an indicator that maybe he's good. I feel like I have to interpret more into this. I think the white horse is a symbol of innocence and elegance and freedom also. And if like this symbol of innocence respects the fairy, maybe that's also an indication that he's not as bad as Feyre makes him out to be.
I like that.
Also, did he come on the horse?
That's
And-
what I was
No, the
asking
smut
myself.
has not yet started, Mike.
That's why it's white.
Did he arrive on the horse? Or did he just bring it along because he planned to take her all along?
I wondered the same thing, because he's described as nearly the same size as the horse, so I can't imagine he was riding on the horse on his way there.
Well, maybe in his Fae human form.
Yeah, but we didn't know that at that point. I was reading it, so I was like, he couldn't have arrived at that, but yeah, I guess.
I mean, did you really think he was just a beast?
I wasn't sure.
And I've been pretty confident he would have a
Yeah, me too.
sort of human-like form. Because doesn't she describe that they can, like, high Fae have a human shape? In the
Yeah, but she doesn't
chapter
describe
four.
him as a high fae. She always thinks, oh, he's a fairy.
Yeah, but I thought she thinks like there are fairies that are creatures and there are high fae that are human-like.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't describe them being able to shapeshift.
Okay, maybe
I
that was just my, understanding of stories.
Maybe.
So yeah, he probably planned on taking her the whole time.
Yes.
If he brought a horse,
Probably,
which is
yeah.
interesting.
I
I
think
kind
so
of
too.
read in the first chapter, chapter 4, I kind of read like he just maybe decided to not kill her and take her because, I don't know, he saw that she has a pretty sad life in there.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, maybe she doesn't deserve to die.
Maybe he
But-
brought the horse as like a fail-safe. Like, I will just bring it, and if she happens to be cool and I offer her to live with me,
Maybe she
then ride
can
on
be
the
my
horse.
friend.
Yeah. What I also found quite interesting about this horse is that this is not the first instance, but Feyre is insanely good at just guessing the genders of animals.
Yes.
Like, she immediately calls it her.
Yeah.
Like, she should go on TV with that. That's a pretty good talent.
I don't know. Maybe if she knows horses, she can probably tell by looking at a horse.
I think it's not only horses that she has this gift with, but with almost every being. But I think it somewhat personifies these animal creatures.
Well, again, she takes something pure and, innocent and makes it female.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So, any other thoughts on the horse?
No.
So, moving
No
on then.
No thought.
No thoughts. So Feyre also clings to one hope because the fairy's equipment is almost luxurious. So he has a quite nice saddle on the horse.
A leather saddle.
Yeah, and she thinks this means he must have some sort of contact with civilized life.
Yeah, so the vibe I got from Feyre actually throughout these whole 2 chapters is just plain racism. Like, she has all those prejudices about fairy life and is like, ooh, maybe he has like contact to civilized life.
Yeah, you're right. I kind of found it funny because I always was so positive about him also being like a human-like creature, I didn't kind of go into the direction of thinking he might just be a beast, and to think that Feyre was afraid that maybe she might live in a cave and like I have lands was him saying, oh, I have a swamp and a little cave and I grow onions somewhere and I eat them. So that's kind of funny.
I wanna
And she's
read
like,
that
oh,
book.
thank God, maybe he has a house and I can sleep in a bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's just racist.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh no, all of this is bad. My life is over. Ooh, nice things.
Yeah. What I found interesting is she says there might be no way for her family to ever find her if she got lost in Prythian when she ran away. Does she think her family would go after her? I mean, it sounds like she has this deep hope inside of her heart where she's like, oh, they're not going to find me, but they will come after me. I don't feel like that.
Me neither.
Maybe Isaac will come.
No, I don't think so.
I kind of hoped Isaac might come before Prythian. Like he finds out, maybe he sees the beast or something, and then he runs after her and tries to save her and maybe fails badly and dies or whatnot. But I thought he would come and try to, I don't know, save her.
Yeah, I feel like this whole journey to Prythian is over very, very fast. Yes. I mean, as I said, it's only 5 pages, but there's also basically nothing happening there except for her thinking about stuff. So, yeah.
It's kind of a weird chapter.
Yeah.
I read it and I was like, where did all the suspense go? Like, we're just writing.
Yeah, it's almost like the first chapter again. She's in the forest again. She's thinking about life again, about her miserable lot in life.
Yeah.
So But she still hasn't given up on escaping, even though she doesn't have a weapon that might significantly hurt the fairy anymore. But she's thinking, if Mahogany Tooth can do it, so can I. And I was like, go off, queen.
Yeah, she's like scanning the woods for like ashwood trees, which like she should know that there aren't any ashwood trees.
Also, if there was a tree, would she just
what are you
run
gonna
off
do?
and cut off the tree and then make an arrow out of it?
I'm just doing it. I'm not doing anything here.
Maybe the bark already hurts them. She's just gonna hurl it at him and
maybe there's like a broken branch sticking out and she pushes him into it and then he just dies.
Or she's using her feminine wiles and pressing him against the tree, and then he turns to ash.
she blows the pollen inside of his face.
We learn that the knowledge of the fairy's vulnerability was betrayed by one of the fairies themselves to the humans. So I want to know more about this betrayal and this ancient conflict. I think it sounds very interesting, and I hope we get to learn.
It's pretty big news. Who was it?
Do you think that maybe we have met the person?
No.
No, I don't think so.
But we might have.
I mean, maybe, but
I mean, Fae are immortal. Like, all these people we meet in chapter 6 were maybe alive at like the start of the treaty.
I don't think so. It would be too soon to know the person. I think it's someone very special, and maybe the person will come up in book, I don't know, 4.
yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. I think it's technically possible, but I
Unlikely.
don't think so, yeah.
Maybe it was the horse.
Maybe their punishment is to be a horse.
I also kind of wondered, how do you find out ashwood is your weakness?
You get a splinter and die.
Yeah, that's what I wondered. Like, do you touch the tree and then your hands burn off and you're like, oh no, I guess that's my mortal.
I mean, it would almost make more sense if the humans found out themselves, because they just happen to make arrows out of it or other weapons, and oh wow, why did these arrows work and not the other ones? But no, there's a fairy going, hey, if you stab me with this, I'll die.
Yeah.
I tried it.
Maybe in like ancient fairy civilizations, everything was covered in ashwood trees and they like built all of their own weapons out of it and just didn't even know that they were immortal because like every weapon killed them. One day they like progress into the next age of technology and someone makes a steel sword and they find out, oh, that doesn't kill me. What the fuck?
That would be so funny.
The first person to find out was like, oh, I'm Jesus.
Fairy Jesus. So we learn a bit more about the greater world. As far as we knew, the High Fae still governed the northern parts of our world. From our enormous island over the narrow sea separating us from the massive continent, across depthless fjords and frozen wastelands and sand-blasted deserts, all the way to the great ocean on the other side. So yeah, we learn about these vast and foreign lands. Do you think we will see them this book?
No. I think that's just, there's more to it, this world, and
Yeah, I
this
think so too.
makes it big and vague and mysterious.
I think maybe in like future books we might travel over across the sea.
Yeah, maybe. I was surprised by Prythian just being one territory of Fae lands. I kind of read it as like the Fae realms. And I mean, we saw on the map that there's other Fae realms around, but I kind of thought like Prythian is maybe like the main thing and it just expanded or something. And to find out that Prythian is just like a country kind of that is ruled by several individual courts was interesting.
That's the thing. Do they rule together? Or
No,
do they rule
doesn't sound like it.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah, maybe they are like the European Union and it's just separate countries, but with
Working
like
together.
one institution working together.
Yeah, especially if they have some common enemy or something, which the mortals could be. Feyre also says all the knowledge about Prythian comes from tales she heard in the village. Though my father had occasionally offered up a milder tale or two, on the nights he made an attempt to remember we existed.
That surprised me. I kind of feel like she describes her mother as very coldly and then her father just as a bit, I don't know, weird. But it seemed like he cared about Nesta and Elaine and maybe even Feyre in a way, but like the broken leg kept him from, you know, keep on living or something like that. But to read that before that, he was even just distant and weird. That surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was depressed because of the injury, but apparently he was not a good
always a
dad
bad
before
dad.
that.
So, yeah, but I thought these were extremely harsh words, and I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah. That's not the only harsh thing. She has this one, like, very egocentric thought of them starving and then realizing how important Feyre was for them.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of liked that thought. Yeah, it's like savage and not nice, but this mentality would have maybe helped Feyre in her life before now.
Yeah. I also think it humanizes her a little bit. Like, she still wants to be recognized for everything she did for her family and hopes that in some way they might do that now. But she also fears what that means for her family.
It's also just very emotional moment, and humans tend to have crass thoughts when they're emotional.
Yeah, you're right.
Speaking of Elaine, I kind of wondered, why is Elaine there? What's her deal?
Yeah.
And then there's the sentence that Nesta would do everything, even sell herself to protect Elaine. And I suddenly wondered, maybe not Feyre is the Fae child. Maybe Elaine is like some kind of cuckoo's child, you know, and I think like the Avalon myth. I'm highly influenced by BBC's Merlin.
Okay.
But I think their Avalon fairies like take human childs and swap them with their own. Because Elaine is so, you know, so delicate and kind of vain, and maybe she's not really a normal human. And maybe Nesta knows that, because she has a very different relationship to Elaine than to Feyre. And I just hope there's a reason for that, because otherwise it's just
A pointless
not
character.
satisfying. Like, why do we have this character that's so useless and bland if she doesn't have a story?
So I like parts of your theory. I don't think that Elaine was like purposely swapped by some Fae, but I think that maybe she has Fae blood, and that will be the reason for a character in this story. And I don't think that Nesta necessarily knows that. Or I think Nesta likes Elaine just because Elaine is so no thought, head empty, and that makes her easy to manipulate.
Yeah,
and
that's
Nesta is
true.
a manipulating person.
I see your point, yeah. That makes sense.
Nesta might just like that Elaine does what Nesta says.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm just making up stuff to keep myself hyped that maybe Elaine might be interesting in the future.
I mean, I would hope so, but we will see.
Yeah.
So, moving on. So, we learned that magic has a tang to it, so it's probably not easily used in secret. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, but also he doesn't have to do any like verbal spell. Or maybe she didn't hear, but I feel like he's growling so
Yes.
loudly all the time, she would probably hear him mumbling some words.
I think she says he's growling in annoyance, and then
Yeah.
she falls asleep. I thought it was kind of skillfully written by Sarah J. Maas, because I was confused what was happening, and I think that mirrors the confusion that Feyre probably felt.
Yeah, it's interesting to describe the smell first, because Feyre probably hasn't smelled magic before, and we haven't heard about magic having a smell. So we kind of feel the same thing.
Magic has a smell.
The metallic tang.
That's what a tang is.
Oh, a tang is a smell?
You didn't know that?
English is not my first language, and I googled what a tang is, and it's described as like a metallic tang, and I found out that a tang is a part of a knife.
Oh.
So I thought this magic works like she's like hit with a metallic dart or something that's poisonous, and that's what knocks her out.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't think that's what she means here, but I mean, if it's the same word.
Yeah, that's just what I thought.
Did you search for a metallic tang?
Yes.
Or just a tang?
I searched for a metallic tang, and then I found out that a tang is the part of a knife that connects the blade to the butt. And I thought, like, why is she hit by the tang? Like, the one part of the knife that's not even visible.
Okay.
Well, in chapter 6, she says, like, this whole garden also has the metallic tang instead of,
Okay.
like, rose and flower smells, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty positive she means, like, the tang of blood.
That's good to know.
Okay, now you know.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's maybe stay with this tang of blood. I mean, because it is metallic, I feel like maybe magic has something to do with blood. And maybe if Feyre has fairy blood, she might be able to learn to do some magic or something.
Yeah, I think she says that she like recognized this magic somehow, like deep inside of her, and she describes it as she recognized the power deep in her bones from some collective mortal memory and terror. And I thought that's not the case. I thought she recognized the magic because she has some sort of Fae blood.
That could be true. I mean, I like the image of generational trauma being a part of this, but I also like your theory.
Your theory is also good.
Thanks. It's building on your theory. She wakes up and they have arrived at a metal gate with a hedged border. And I was thinking, well, that's not at all what I expected the wall to be.
Same. Lea, you and I share like one brain cell.
Yes.
I thought like, what is this wall? Why is it a pretty metal gate?
I was so sure this was the wall. And I was so amazed by this idea. Oh, wow, it's just a hedge with a gate. They can just walk through. This is amazing.
I wrote down like a whole page in my notebook of like questions I have about this wall because I just didn't understand it. Like, is it just a gate? Like, can you see beyond the hedgerow? Is it like an illusion of the winter forest before they walk through and it's spring? I was so confused.
Same.
Well, it turns out they skipped the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. This is a theme in this book. We just skip the good parts, I guess.
I don't even know what to say to that. I didn't think it was the wall. I mean, I was confused. I was like, where is she? What's happening? But then she says, oh, it takes like about 2 days to go to Prythian. So if I'm here already, I must have been asleep the whole time. I was like, okay, he drugged her for 2 days. What a bastard. But your theory is fine too.
I mean, we know it's wrong. This is not the wall. But
I just wanted to be friendly.
But I mean, I read this too with these, she must have been made unconscious for 2 days and that she just woke up before the wall.
Yeah, that's what I thought. She just happens to wake up just before they walk through the wall, so we, the readers, can finally experience the wall.
Yes.
I was like, thank you, Sarah J. Maas.
I want to know what this wall is about. We heard so much about it. Please tell me about this wall. I want to experience it. Thanks.
Well.
Yes, maybe we should just move immediately on to chapter 6.
Oh, well, I want to talk about the fact that she left the wall out. Because that's a very interesting choice.
So you don't think it was just lazy writing?
I hope not. She was like, well, what does the wall look like? I don't know. Let's just skip it.
I mean, it could be.
No, I mean, there are two possibilities. The one thing is that Sarah J. Maas just wants to keep us wondering about the wall, but maybe he drugged her, not just because she, well, I'm saying drugged, like magically, drugged her. He drugged her because she's not supposed to see what is going on on the wall. So Feyre isn't allowed to know, so we are not allowed to know.
Yeah, I think there's even a greater mystery about this wall than just what is this wall. I think there is more going on, as we learn in the next chapter, in chapter 6.
Some big conspiracy. Yeah.
But I wanted to know what it is right there and then.
Yes. Yeah, I'm still so confused about the whole wall thing.
Yeah.
Is it a wall? Is it a magic barrier? What is it?
Hopefully we find out in this book.
Yeah, I'm also confused about how does this world work. This is like moving on to chapter 6, but they go through the wall and it's spring. It's like magically spring. How?
Magic.
Like, is this not like a spinning globe that dictates the seasons?
I mean, we don't know.
I mean, probably, but she says they use magic to control the seasons as they please. So they overrule natural
That's
things.
Some powerful shit.
Yeah, incredibly.
I'm interested to learn more about this magic, if it is a hard magic system or a soft magic system. Because if it's a soft magic system, then I don't think we will get an explanation of
probably not.
How they can control the weather. It's just like, oh yeah, magic.
I feel like there are not a lot of pages. This book is like 400 pages long, so I feel like it will not be a hard magic system.
I don't think
Yeah,
so
I
either.
don't
Magic
think
will
so.
just be a convenient thing.
I think so too, yeah.
I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
But like still, this this makes me wonder about a few things. Like, we saw on the map that this court adjacent to the mortal world is the spring court. So that's why it's always spring. So there's other season-themed courts. Like, I'm assuming that, like, in summer court it's always summer, in winter court it's always winter, blah, blah, bloop, bloop.
But then we have daytimes. I was wondering...
Then we have daytimes. Like, is it just always night in the night court?
Maybe.
And
Eternal night.
I wouldn't want to live there. That sounds depressing.
Well, maybe you have, like, night creatures and they draw power from night.
Maybe.
Or maybe they're vulnerable to the sun.
Like vampires.
Or drow.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that there's a dawn court. Like, is there always just the sun barely up?
Yeah, I wonder if there's a hard cut between the courts. If you go from, I don't know, what's the court before night?
I will check the map.
Okay.
So yeah, the court right before night is day, and then before that, further south is the dawn court. And then under the mountain, and then winter and the whole season court.
Is there a hard cut between the courts? So if you go from day court to night court, is there just a line? And if you step to the north, it's suddenly dark, and if you step to the south, it's pretty suddenly bright? Or?
So the lines on the map separating the courts are pretty straight. Not like drawn with a ruler, but very straightish. So they might just be magical borders as well.
We will see. I hope so.
I'm kind of scared we might not see the wall in this book. Because we just got to Prythian, and I feel like she has to adjust to life in Prythian over the next at least 100 pages. I mean, we have to get to know the characters and kind of what's going on, and then we might venture deeper into Prythian, and maybe at the end of the book, like it's a cliffhanger, she's like, and in front of me was the wall, and then end of book. And we'll find out more about it. I hope not, because it's driving me nuts. I want to know what's going on with this fucking wall.
I feel like it's a deeper plot, yeah. It might be the overarching thing for this whole series.
Yeah, but maybe if we venture further into Prythian, maybe we will see a different magical border. Like the border to Winter Court or something.
Yeah, so starting with chapter 6, we learn this is not the wall, as we talked about now in length, but the gate to the fairy's opulent manor. And we learn that her captor is not a fairy at all, but a high fae who can shapeshift. Lukas, one prediction of yours was right.
Yes.
Yay! Very good.
And he's also insanely rich.
Yes.
I think. Like, it makes me wonder, we have this enormous fancy manor of his. Is he maybe one of the wealthiest people in the Spring Court? Or are there like hundreds of these manors in Spring Court?
Or maybe he's the Lord.
Maybe
he
he's
is
the High Lord. Yeah.
But then he is on this mission just out and does not have a henchman going out. But the wolf was his friend. But yeah.
I want to point out one thought of Feyre, like on the way to the manor. She like contemplates escaping again and again. And then she's like, okay, I'm too weak to escape right now. And then she thinks about, okay, I will first eat some food and then escape. But then later we learn that she doesn't want to eat fairy food because that's like a superstition that it like corrupts your soul or something. And then like, what food was she planning on eating?
I think she just forgot because she was so hungry and weak in that moment. And then she saw the feast laid out on the table, and then she remembered, oh, you're not supposed to eat fairy food. It looks very delicious and good, and I would like to dive right in, but I shouldn't.
So I also thought it was interesting that for the first time she finds some gentle words to describe her captor. She describes him as meandering on ahead. And I was like, oh, this is kind of a shift from what she thought about him before.
It's kind of funny how he is taking her with him. Because he's like, oh, I'm not going to kill you. You're going to come live with me in Prythian. He sits her on a horse and then just goes ahead. He doesn't secure her. He doesn't even want to talk to her. He doesn't care. He just left her standing in his garden. And it's like, well, I live here. You can do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah, like, so he doesn't secure her once they are over the wall. Like, before that, she's like, her limbs are even bound by the spell. But then, I mean, it seems like he's just holding up his promises. Like he says, I will take you to Prythian and you can do whatever you want once you're in Prythian.
Yeah, and he
it
doesn't
seems like
feel
he does
menacing
him
at
that.
all, and just
Like a guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
She describes the place as very silent and empty,
Yeah.
which is interesting because to me it kind of felt like, what if this has an actual, like, important meaning? It kind of felt to me that, you know, you have a little garden gate and a few hedges and then like an empty manor. It kind of sounds like it's supposed to be full and there are supposed to be a lot of people, but there aren't. So maybe the war actually left the Fae pretty like low on numbers and the humans just don't know. Maybe Fae are almost extinct and we don't know that yet.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
I would maybe expand on that because she also describes the garden as empty and silent, I think. So maybe there are also no bees or any animals like that around. And we talked about how the fairies might be the equivalent to animals, but maybe there aren't any real animals, like mortal animals around. So that could be something the Fae want to overcome or change.
Definitely like an eerie feeling in this place.
You know, when you hear court, and we don't know if we're in an actual court, but a mansion just feels like it should be full of people. And we have, like we later find out, one courtier and an emissary and no one else, just one servant. And that's kind of
Couple
it
of
so far.
servants.
I
But
think
yeah.
it's a few, yeah.
I mean, Feyre killed one guy that's supposed to be there.
True.
So
That's true.
True, yeah.
she had that development.
Yeah. So inside the manor, Feyre is amazed by all the grandness that overshadows even the rich mortals' palaces. And she is met with the beautiful feast we already talked about a little bit. And there is all kinds of food and wine. And I particularly like the mention of asparagus because I love asparagus. And
I'm allergic to asparagus.
oh, that's sad because it's tasty. I also feel like that's not the most usual choice of food for a classic feast in medieval or fantasy setting. And it
Feels
stood
very
out to me.
spring.
Yeah, true. You're right.
Yeah. I think they can only have like spring food. Unless it makes me wonder if there's like trading going on in between these courts. Like if they only have spring food, that might be an indicator that they're like not well connected to like the summer court to have summer food.
But I feel like going back to the vibes of courts, I feel like there must be some sort of intermingling because that's what I associate with stories about courts and high society and stuff.
It would just be very boring if they all kept to themselves. Just story-wise, you know.
Yeah. So Feyre is taking in this feast and then out of the blue, the fairy turns into a golden-haired man.
Nice. I wrote down, let's go Rysand.
I wrote down, thank God. I was really happy about it.
He's an actual man! Yay! No fairy story here.
So let's stick with the name we thought about before. Let's call him
Hanni.
Hanni for now.
Honey, yeah.
So just in case it isn't Rysand, we don't confuse or annoy people. He's described as young, so he's not an old grandpa who's cute, and a blonde and has a strong jaw and pointy ears and green eyes, so kind of the all-American dream boy.
Very classic elf also.
Yeah, you're right.
Just Lord of the Rings elf style.
Yes. And he wears absurd high fae fashion, which consists of a golden mask covering the upper portion of his face. So all these faes are wearing
Fancy.
masks.
Interesting. I have a theory.
Oh, okay.
Go on.
Me too.
Maybe this mask is the very thing that keeps the human form.
I thought so too.
Nice.
We're on the same page here. I thought, like, what's their true
Nice.
form? Is it human or is it their beast-like
Yeah.
form? And maybe if they are human, they have to kind of connect still to that animalistic form they have. So she doesn't describe what Hanni's mask looks like, does she? She's just like, it's golden
like
and
golden.
like adorned with leaves and stuff. But we have someone wearing a fox mask and a bird's mask. So that kind of feels like maybe they have to connect to their animal to...
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think the mask contains the animal in the human form. Like we have one mention of Hanni's like lethal claw slipping out, so that makes me think that the beast form has to be contained in some way.
But we also learn by that they can shapeshift only parts of their body and on a whim.
Which is pretty cool.
So in his mask there are emeralds embedded in the shapes of whirls of leaves, and he wears a dark green tunic, so his color scheme is green and gold. He's Father Christmas without red.
I said last episode that he's Santa Claus.
I remembered that.
You're onto something.
Yes.
Also feels springy, kind of. Also how she describes her bedroom with like green colors and like brown feelings and I think some orange and blue. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It just, the color scheme fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very committed to the spring bit.
Yes. And he also wears a leather baldric. So do you know what a baldric is?
No.
So I have Googled it.
Nice.
And it's a sort of belt thing that goes over your chest and you can put a weapon on it. When I searched for it, I saw pictures and I got very Zorro vibes. Connected with the mask. Very Zorro.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like his personality is very Zorro, though.
No, he seems very chill.
Yeah.
He just sits down, starts eating, is like, eat or don't. Do whatever
Starve
you like.
if you like.
Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but I think he is the noble one. So because he says he's not her jailer and he spares her life.
I think he feels very white knighty himself.
Yeah.
He mentions that life for her was like hell already. And it just feels like, he feels very cool about getting her out of there. He's like,
Yeah.
I took her out of that shed. And now she's living in my cool mansion.
Yeah, I did
I'm
the
a
best
hero.
for her. Yeah. I think you're right.
Yeah, Feyre doesn't describe him as chill. Like when she realizes he's a high fae, she says a high fae. Beautiful, lethal, and merciless. And I'm like, why the racism? He's shown you nothing but mercy. Why do you assume he's merciless?
It's true.
Feyre
you're
with
right.
the superstition.
Yeah, not to defend her racism, but I guess it's pretty hard when everyone
Yeah,
always tells you those people will kill you whatever chance they get, and then one comes and takes you from your family. It makes sense she's scared and holds on to that belief.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe we will see a very slow change of heart in her.
maybe.
Like she's
probably.
like surprised by everything. She's like, oh, they're civilized. What a surprise. Ooh, he has shown mercy. What a surprise. I'm like, yeah, you should like maybe understand that not everything you were told is true.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's kind of funny that in this scenario, she actually is kind of the bad person. I mean, she kills someone, and now someone comes and kind of wants to take revenge, but not even by killing her or hurting her, but just, I'm gonna take you with me now.
Yeah.
Not to imprison her, so I don't know. It kind of doesn't make sense. I feel like he could have just left her because he doesn't care where she goes as long as she's in Prythian.
Yeah.
Okay.
I also
That's the
don't.
treaty.
I also don't think that's true. I think he cares where she goes. I think he wanted to take her with him. For what reason we will find out, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps mentioning that you are free to go wherever you want, but like, where is she gonna go? And I think he knows that she doesn't really have another option than to stay there, like right now.
Maybe he's manipulating her into thinking she has her own will in this case. And
Another manipulator.
yeah.
So when Feyre refuses to eat, I noticed quite a funny description. She writes, "Fine," he said, the word laced with a growl. So I would like to hear what you think a fine laced with a growl sounds like.
He growls a lot. So I think it's like, fine. Don't you just hate when you go to a shady park to buy weed and then it's laced with a growl again? And then every time you smoke, you're like,
She uses growling a lot in all of her books. I've read it in Throne of Glass and in her new series. And I think a lot of authors do when writing male characters.
but what is it supposed to mean?
I don't know.
I feel like it's some sort of angry mumbling. I think he's like a bit like if he had a beard, into his beard, fine.
Maybe just for Sarah J. Maas, but in a lot of her books, men are usually kind of animalistic in some way. And especially when they come to like sexual emotions or just very deep emotions, she describes how they're just have very animalistic feelings, and it's like the beast is taking over or something like that. So I feel like having man growl so much kind of transports this whole deep inside, I'm an animal vibe. And she just might forget that normal people don't growl. but it's a thing in books, you know. You can't just say says all the time, so you have to come up with different words to describe
so the words
someone.
are laced with growls.
I mean, I don't want to say this is happening here right now, but I also feel like when you replace every say or said, it's very fan fiction-y.
Yeah.
That's
true.
It doesn't read normally. So if they just normally say something, it should just say said or say. But just in this one instance, it also emphasizes the animalistic nature that is obviously in this person, because he can turn into some
beast.
Yeah.
Animal.
Yeah. So shortly thereafter, another high fae enters the room.
Wow.
It is Lucian, who is the courtier and emissary of Hanni. And
Let's stick with it.
The blonde dude. And so he is some sort of advisor and spokesperson. He is described as having red hair and wearing a silver tunic. He also wears a mask, a bronze mask.
A fox mask.
Fox-like mask.
And that, it's hard to admit, but when I read fox, my brain immediately went like, oh, that's hot. I was very much in love with the Robin Hood Disney figure. And I know that's not just me, but like a very common opinion among people born in the 90s, I guess, that they felt attracted to Robin Hood as a fox. And I don't know where that is coming from, but he was a very nice fox and I really wanted to marry him.
Marry him. Okay.
I didn't yet. But yeah, so when I read he has a fox mask on, I was like, oh yeah, that's gonna be my man in this book. And then he revealed his name. And that name is so unsexy.
Really?
I think it just sounds so cliche bad. Yeah. He makes me think of Lucian Malfoy, who's not...
No.
You know.
No, but I also thought of Lucius Malfoy. But I also thought of Lucian from the originals, who's also not that sexy, but also... I mean, he's also a kind of annoying character, but also kind of cool.
It just sounds so much like Lucifer.
Yeah,
I was a bit annoyed. Like,
I loved it
because he's a grumpy guy and kind of seems the most antagonistic so far. So him having a name similar to Lucifer just made me kind of mad.
Sarah J. Maas is sometimes very on the nose with her names. Like this kind of evil guy, he's named after Lucifer. This protagonist in my Fae'd book, she's called Feyre.
Her name game is not so strong so far.
Not yet, no.
Not yet.
But I have to say I'm already also somewhat infatuated with this Lucian guy. I don't know why, but...
Do you think he might be like the main love interest for Feyre?
I don't think so, because I fear he might be the cruel one, as one would say. And I think actually that Hanni will be her main love interest for
maybe
now.
Both of them will be. Because maybe that's just because I feel this is going to be very romantic-y. I immediately assume everyone's going to fall in love with Feyre. Like she's this outsider in the fairylands and like all those fae that are actually better than her, you know, and they're thinking gradually fall in love with the normal girl and all of them.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it's going to be either Hanni or Lucian. To me, they just seem so old.
This is a book about immortal fae. I think you have to get used to the fact that her love interest will be much more older than she is.
I know, but I kind of expect that maybe we will be introduced to like the son of Hanni or something, who's more like this inexperienced prince type that will be the love interest of Feyre.
I have to agree they don't feel
and then that's Rysand.
Immediately like a love interest. And I think in YA books especially, you can often tell from the first second on, you know, someone enters the room and just the way they are described, you just know, okay, he's at least gonna be involved with her in some way. And both of them kind of have this immediate love interest vibe, but I don't know, I just expect everyone to have some kind of feelings for her.
Yeah, I feel like Hanni is too boring to be an interesting love interest because he's just the noble guy, and that's just
Yeah, I think if it has to be one of them, it's probably Lucian.
Yeah, and I feel like with this insulting, bantering they have going on, it is more likely that he would be a love interest than Hanni.
He also kind of talks in a similar way to Feyre, because he's like, your eyes are like stars and your hair like burnished gold. And I was like, oh, that could have been coming from her.
True.
So maybe they're both interested in art and something like that and bond
They
over
seem
that.
kind of alike.
Yeah,
like,
they're
he's
both
also
very edgy.
broody and edgy.
Yeah, I see it.
And they are set up to have like this enemy to lovers relationship.
Yeah,
Like she killed his friend.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we weren't quite done with what Lucian looks like. So he has a wicked slashing scar from his brow down to his jaw. And he has a missing eye that is replaced by a golden orb that also functions as an eye, apparently.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool, but also pretty over the top. But then cool again.
Yeah, I don't know. I just dig his vibe somehow.
Do you think this scar is from a fight he had with Mahogany?
Oh, that would be so cool. I mean, those two together in a room? Damn. But I actually don't think so.
Yeah, me neither.
So Lucian enters and he asks if Andras is dead. So Andras is the name of this wolf. And he cannot believe that a frail human girl could have defeated Andras.
But she did.
So we learn that the treaty has some magic to it, which brought Hanni directly to Feyre's hut. And I just wrote down, oops, because it's like, yeah, so, okay, we can immediately pinpoint where this comes from. So there's some sort of fail-safe if the humans act up. And I thought that was very interesting.
Pretty convenient.
Yes.
Convenient and again pretty powerful magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how does it work? It's not even like a tracking
It's
spell
vague.
is a like known device in fantasy stories, but they usually need something from the person they're tracking, like hair or blood or something. But he had nothing. He was just like, oh, someone killed my friend, and now
The treaty knows
also
who did it.
how did he find out so quickly?
Yeah.
Did like
Maybe he was part of the mission.
oh maybe
Or maybe the treaty also like alerts the closest of kin if the fairy is killed immediately.
Maybe.
yeah, or maybe because he belonged to his court. Like he knows when someone dies who was loyal to him.
Maybe that's just a task that falls to the respective lords to avenge their court members when they have been attacked or killed or something, so that the highest person in the court is alerted.
By magic then. Because
Yes.
I don't think anyone could have.
No.
She says it takes 2 days. Well, when did he arrive?
The next day.
The next day. And she says it takes 2 days from her village to the border.
Yeah.
So he must have been close.
Or he can travel faster than a horse.
Oh yeah, maybe
Yeah,
he
maybe the
ran as the
treaty
beast or something.
teleports him.
Oh wow, that would be.
Just a minute. But
It's
then
the
he would have...
beautiful magic of plot convenience.
Well, I
Maybe.
think as the beast, he might be able to run very fast.
But then, did he
Yeah.
find the horse friend over there, or did he just carry the horse?
Maybe he just stole it somewhere. Maybe
And-
someone's missing a horse now.
He was like, hey, you, Mayor, do you want to be my friend? Okay, you have to carry someone. Let's go. She's like, I respect you.
Yeah.
Great, honey.
Maybe we'll find out later how he
Maybe.
found out.
Maybe the horse is the sun.
Maybe the horse is the actual love
Oh
interest.
yeah. So you think the horse is Rysand?
Right, sand. No. Moving on. So the third person we meet is Alice. She is also wearing a mask and she is a servant. And when she is leading Feyre up to her room, we can overhear a discussion between Lucian and the main Fae'd, Hanni. And Andras was sent across the border on a mission, and that Lucian is not happy with the overall situation and directs his anger toward the cauldron. What do you think that is? Who
I'm
is-
not gonna say anything.
Oh, okay.
Is it a leaky cauldron?
So I feel like they must be some sort of government. That's why I thought maybe the ruling Fey Lords are working together. But I also feel like maybe there's some resistance leadership or something, but I feel like they are the ones that are giving orders, obviously, right?
It's awesome how much mystery is in those 2 sentences they exchange. Because so much is going on in my head. Like, are they fighting against someone specific, or is it like a group of people like the humans, or just another group of Fae? And they speak about not making a move until they know it's the only thing they can do. So they are holding back. But why? And what's going on? I'm so confused.
Yeah, so Lucian says, maybe it's time to say enough. And I say, inner conflict.
Yeah. So what do you think was this mission Andros was sent on? Or just like went on his own?
It's hard to answer because we have so little context, but I also, well, because we know that he hunted the doe. I feel like he's been out for a while and was alone because apparently he was looking for food. And as we see, they have a lot of food, so he could have just packed a lot if he was on a mission. So he's probably been out there for a while, maybe spying on someone.
Like, if he was alone, he must have lost his people, because I think it's mentioned that they were more people than just him.
They talk about others training near the border.
There's so much mystery here.
Training for what?
So the question is, did he train at the border, or was he the trainer? Is that a word? Trainer? Trainee?
The instructor.
Instructor.
A trainer is a shoe.
Yeah, I remember that.
I have some just wild guesses and theories about this mission.
Okay.
So maybe he was out there to find the 7th queen.
Which maybe they have found.
Just throwing that out there.
I like the fact that we're so focused on the 7th queen, even though we don't even know if the High Lords have queens.
Yeah.
Because why would the wife of a lord be called queen? But I'm very behind the whole 7th queen thing. I'm just observing how funny.
I don't even think these 6 queens that made the treaty have to still be alive, but maybe they need 7 hearts or whatever.
I feel like the 6 queens who made the treaty, she used that to describe a lot of time. Because I read it as it took 6 queens. So it took 6 queens to die and another queen to come on the throne and work on it. I didn't read it as...
there were just like 6 queens simultaneously.
Okay, I thought maybe the mortal lands have like 1 queen and 1 king.
That makes so much sense.
6 of them, and maybe like it's a matriarch. And the queen died, and then another one came, and she worked on the treaty. And then she died, and another one came, and she also worked on the treaty.
That makes so much sense.
But maybe the courts have queens as well, so the 7th queen thing can still work.
Yeah.
See, because I thought these 6 queens went over there. They feel so stupid now.
You could also be right.
Yeah, but it sounds so funny now in comparison
I thought
to it.
there were like 6 mortal kingdoms or queendoms.
That work together.
That
could be. I mean...
Is queendom a word?
Queendom? We should make it a word.
Yeah, it's a good word. So, moving on. Another possibility is that Andros went out there to find his long-lost relative. And maybe Andros is like the father of Feyre. And that would make for an interesting and dramatic story that Feyre just happened to kill her own dad.
Patricide. Always a bad crime. Like, I mean, so in the Bible, it's like a sin or something. I'm not really sure, but it's always like an especially bad crime.
Kids, don't kill your parents.
Your mom's okay. Just don't kill your dad.
According to the Bible.
Yeah, so that's just a theory. Or maybe he's out there to try and seal peace with the mortals somehow. Or the opposite, maybe he's out there to, like on a scouting mission, to plan an attack on the mortals.
I feel like he was sort of spying or scouting. I think that makes the most sense. But the question is, on what? Because we never hear of some sort of fortress or anything, stronghold that might guard the mortal lands. It's just the wolf lands and this village.
Alice tells Feyre, or I think it's Alice, she tells her that he knew what he would face out there. And what was it that he knew he would face? Because it probably wasn't Feyre shooting him from a tree. But he was expecting to meet something dangerous. And I've been wondering if maybe he wanted to maybe close the rifts in the wall. Like he was trying to keep the monsters in that flee into mortal lands because of reasons.
Maybe.
We have so little information.
Yeah, so this chapter is quite hard on that part because we get so much information and only questions and no answers at all, except for the wolf's name.
Feyre is an interesting main character, though, because she doesn't question anything she hears.
That's true, yeah.
Maybe it's just because I'm coming from the Percy Jackson books, where Percy asks about everything he doesn't understand, and that is very helpful as a reader. But Feyre, she overhears these conversations and she hears a lot and she gets a lot of lore dropped and she doesn't ask anything. She's just like, okay, I'm here. And maybe that's just because she's so overwhelmed with everything that's happening, but she doesn't question anything that's going on.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe that changes when she becomes more confident that they won't kill her immediately or something.
They also probably wouldn't tell her anything if she actually asked. Because I don't feel like she could be like, oh, hey, Feylord, tell me all about your secret mission. He probably wouldn't tell her, but that she doesn't even question it in her own inner monologue that we read all the time, in her own narration. It frustrates me.
Yeah, she's still, I mean, this sounds a little bit harsh, but she's still just concerned about herself and her situation right now and not about this greater conflict that seems to be going on, and this conflict doesn't really concern her right now. She's concerned about surviving. So on that front, it makes sense. But me, the reader, I want to know what's going on.
Maybe we will find out. I mean, this book is not meant to be closed after 2 chapters at a time, like we do it.
I think so too, yeah. So Feyre is brought to her chambers and the servants care for Feyre and clean her, and then she is supposed to put on a dress, but she doesn't want to, so she throws a tantrum until Alice gives in and gives her different clothes.
Feyre very much incorporates the not like the other girls tomboy type trope. Like
I was thinking exactly
Katniss
the same
Everdeen.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, but on the other hand, she does have a point because it is hard to run through a forest in a dress, probably.
She says she couldn't move freely and she still very much intends to flee at some point.
Yes. She also reflects on how maybe not everything she knows is true because she does not hear screams of torture and...
Finally, she starts reflecting on that.
Yeah, but she immediately does a 180 and goes, but maybe it's a ruse so they can eat me later because the high fae that like to play with their food.
She's so racist.
I mean, she is taken captive.
Yes, I know. And if you like spend your whole life in a culture that propagates these prejudices, you're bound to believe them at some point.
I like to think that this is kind of Nesta in her head speaking, because 2 chapters before, Nesta is like, well, they probably ate her. And for her to be like, oh, they like to play with their food and then eat me later, I kind of imagine Nesta in her head being like, oh, they will eat you. They will eat you at some point, believe me.
Yeah, but I also hope this is the start of her reflecting maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
But before Feyre can ask any more questions, Alice opens the door and the chapter ends. So any closing thoughts?
I think we covered a lot.
Yes.
And I also think if I just read the book by myself, I wouldn't care so much about the wall, because I would just breeze through it and probably get to the end a lot faster. Mm-hmm. But I'm so frustrated. I don't know what's going on. And I was kind of mad because I didn't really like those chapters a lot. Because it was just, I don't know, a bit underwhelming because everything was just chill. Because there's not really a conflict. Like she killed a fairy and then someone was coming to take her. And I was like, oh, what's happening now? And then it's just, oh, we're just taking you. That's it. And I guess something will happen soon that might bring up this whole big conspiracy thing. But it's not happening fast enough for me.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we had a first act of this book in the Mortal Lands, and now we had a second first act in the Fairyland.
Yeah, but I also liked that we met some new people.
Yeah.
I think they're very interesting. And I'm looking forward to finding out more.
Yeah, I think we bring a lot of frustration upon ourselves with not reading on for this podcast. I want to just keep reading. We have not read enough of this to make any of these predictions that we have made.
You're right.
It's a good thing the podcast forces me to keep reading, because I'm already at a point where I don't really want to continue. I mean, I have so many questions, but something is just
I mean,
inside of me. And
we're in some 50 pages, and that's about the point you stopped when you tried to read this
I think so,
like
yeah.
6 years ago.
Maybe in the next episode I'll be a fan again, or will completely hate it. We'll see.
I'm looking forward to finding out. Maybe you listeners at home are also looking forward to finding out. If so, you might consider following this podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also contact us at gettingfaidpod
On Instagram.
and chat with us about the book.
But please don't send any spoilers. Thanks.
No.
So I guess we will see you next time when we are
Getting
Fae'd!